Okay, hello. This is probably either the first part or the second part, depending on if I have internal musings about being around for 11 years and 200 episodes. But this particular storyline that I'm doing, there was only one person really who came to mind that I needed to do this story with because he likes this villain for whatever reason. So there he is again. He is my admirable arch nemesis. It's Sam Heath Bar Heath. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much. And I would like to note the little figurine in the background there
Yeah.
that it looks like it could be some kind of shrine that you've built to him. Is that
Not at all. I was, yeah, behind the camera, I was peer pressured to bring that out.
right?
Normally stands in front of my TV and put it up there, but yeah,
There he
little
is.
little guy right there.
There
Yeah.
he
So
is.
we're gonna be doing some Joker's last laugh. And we'll see if we were chuckling along with it. But I wanted to start off actually asking you, because I think we at least mentioned it in our politics episode that you were on, that
Mhm.
you do like the Joker a great deal. I don't know if you love him, but you like him a lot. What is it about the Joker that draws you in, and why? Would you consider yourself a Joker apologist? What is it about this guy that you like so much?
Maybe a Joker fan. I mean,
Okay.
just from a perspective of who he is as a character. So he's so different than any other villain in so many ways. One, he's such a foil in a way to Batman in some ways. Like he's such an anti-Batman. And Batman is my favorite superhero, period. So to see like the anti-Batman is something that's exciting. I also, and I don't know a ton of the superheroes, but of like the main ones that are more out there in popular culture, like a lot of those have a goal, like a discernible goal of something that they're pretty clearly achieving. And I never really put language to this until watching the Dark Knight trilogy, of really looking at the Joker as just this agent of chaos, and like that's it. That's his only goal. Like he's not trying to steal something, or he's not like, getting back at some angry thing like Scarecrow is of "I felt slighted" in academia. Like Joker is just pure wickedness, and that means that he can do anything. And that means as a storyline, like you can have like the world is open for what he could do. So I love that he's so against Batman. I love that he's this just absolute like complete opposite of a moral center individual that you can do so many things with. And he's somebody that, again, not having read everything, but he's one of the villains that feels incredibly developed and used over and over and over. So it's not just me that seems
Mm,
to like him. Like there seems to be this
yeah,
fascination with him. I mean, we awarded a best actor Oscar to someone playing Joker. And
sure.
a few years before that, we'd awarded a best supporting actor Oscar to someone play. So like there's this public draw to him anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. But do you like the Jared Leto version?
I saw the trailer and that was as much as I could handle.
Okay.
And then I read some stories about him, and then I talked to you about it, and I was like, nope, nope, no,
Not
no,
up for
thank
it. Yeah. I remember probably some of the stories you heard. I remember he did weird stuff to his castmates. Like he would send them weird things, like weird as in macabre things
you. Yeah,
that if you were outside of that situation, people would probably be calling the police,
yeah,
sort of things.
yes.
Yeah, I think he just
Um,
really got
I'll
into it.
I'll stick with Heath Ledger.
Yeah. He's supposed to pop up again in the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, but I
Okay,
guess he looks different. I don't know. I'm not
okay,
sure.
okay. So stay
But
tuned.
yeah. I won't admit this many times, though guess this is the most public place forum that I could admit it, but I do miss talking to you and our library get-togethers and our friendship
Our
time.
friendship time.
And especially I've been reading How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi,
Mm,
and I can race through books at work, but this one, once I started, I thought I really need to take my time with this. And so I'm just reading maybe one or two chapters a day apart from maybe some other book that I have. But it's just struck me that I wish Sam I could talk to him about
yeah.
some of the stuff that's going on. So
Oh, there's so much to process in it.
yeah,
So Rachel
absolutely.
read it, my wife read it in her book club. And there was a ton to talk about. I mean, genuinely any chapter from that book could be its own like
Yeah.
3 hour at a night discussion with a group
Hmm.
of anybody, because they're so packed, much less like the whole the whole thing together. Yeah, and I just finished it a couple weeks ago, and I was the same. I read it slowly. I started it at the beginning of the school year and then just, read other things too, but then
Yeah.
worked my way through that really slowly because every chapter has a ton. And I wanted to
Mhm.
read it fast just because it felt relevant, but then once I got into it, I
Yeah.
think like you're saying, I felt like I just couldn't to do it justice.
Yeah, absolutely. I so another thing that I have you to thank for is the reader to a certain
Mm,
extent, just because you mention it so often. And in my musings on, what I've learned as a podcaster, I think I will be talking about empathy and everything. But that's really struck me about the empathy that he's trying to work through in that particular novel and condoning versus condemning and everything. And I thought about a question that I wondered what you thought. Um, Empathy versus love,
mm.
and what if someone were to like only have the ability to do one or try to work towards one, which one do you feel like would be most worthwhile? Is one more difficult than the other
Mm. I
to
don't
attain?
I don't know. By the definitions I have of those things in my head, I don't think of those as totally separate things. And I'm not even sure which one I would put in one but came before the other. I mean,
Mm,
in some sense, I could say, like, if you are empathizing with someone, that's love. Or you could say, if you are loving someone, then that's going to result in empathy. But in another sense, like, I don't know if somebody I if anything, those might just be simultaneous. Like
okay.
they're so linked for me. Like if I'm truly loving and caring for someone, that's got to come from somewhere. And most likely I think that's from empathy. And if I'm absolutely empathizing with someone, then that's going to result in love. So I don't know that those are separate things, but
Okay.
I I feel like philosophically I would have to stop and think more about if there'd be an order of those.
Yeah, I just wondered, if could you love someone without necessarily trying to understand what they're going through? It's just like, no matter what you're going through or what's the cause behind your actions, I'm going to love you. So that's what I wonder, if there is a separation between the two of them.
If by love we mean maybe certain actions that we do that are good and caring for someone, like I think like they're I think of my children who like sometimes are crazy and feel amazing, but also sometimes feel like sociopaths and like
Sure.
I do these acts of love towards sometimes I think they're the Joker. Sometimes I do these acts of love towards them because like they're right and they're good and I know that it's a helpful thing, but yet I'm not really feeling the empathy. Like, I know you're real upset you didn't get candy or get to watch that show or whatever it is or something serious, but like I'm still going to do this. So, if by love we still mean like I'm going to engage you and I'm going to dignify you,
Mhm.
no, no, that doesn't always have to come from empathy. But then again, I think like, well, what is it that's motivating me to even still do that for my kids if I'm not feeling the full like weight of the feelings maybe that I could or should, but I'm still doing it? Well, where's that coming from? And so
Yeah.
maybe there's still some empathy under there that's still helping drive those actions. What do you think? Do you see those as paired or mutually exclusive?
Yeah, I was just trying to think about, because I feel like my message that I'll say is, and I was thinking about the election, and that even if I don't talk about my political sides, I think it is hard for people who are anti-Trump to reach out in empathy or any sort of understanding to the voters.
Mm,
And I totally get it, because I think there was strong messaging that, I mean, if you're voting for that guy, there's something wrong. You might be racist, even if you're saying you're all about the economy. And so I was thinking, like, how could you reach out to someone who just like can't connect with them? And do you say just love them, but is love just ignoring everything else and just love that person as a person? Sometimes people can't get past that. And so if I were to go another route and say, well, what about empathy and just like treating them like a human being? It's something that I've kind of been working through. And then of course there's the other layer of compassion, but I feel like that would be even harder for someone to reach that level, in the political sphere. I don't know. So that's what I've been
mm,
working through with this, because I feel like however much we may disagree, because I think that's where the reader comes in, right? However much we may disagree with these voters, I think if we were to keep seeding dissension, like our nation's just going to fall apart, and so we really need to reach out and do that. however hard it, and I'm not saying it's an easy thing either, like, it's something that I think I have to, just like being an anti-racist is a daily journey. You don't just wake up one day and you're an anti-racist. You have to revisit actions all the time that you may
Right.
have committed that were racist or
Right.
following racist policies, and then apologize for that, own it, and move on. So I feel like with empathy, it's a constant journey as well. That yikes, I really don't understand why you're voting for this man. Or I don't like that you're voting for this man. Maybe you are misled and I'm trying to feel for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Kendi is so helpful in the sense of saying it's less helpful to think about someone as an entirely racist person, and it's more
Yeah.
helpful to think about they did this racist action.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
insert anything into whatever that is. Like
Mhm.
it's so rare that somebody is completely and totally this thing. They always say in counseling, especially marriage counseling, like don't ever say to your partner that you always or you never. Like
Yeah.
these totalizing statements aren't true. Like in the moment, somebody might do something in this thing.
Mhm.
So with someone who's voting for Trump, or I did, it's so helpful to think about one, there's a reason. There's a
Mhm.
reason somebody did that. And I might disagree with that reason, but one, there might be something that's binding their conscience. And that's something
Yeah.
that I can say, I wish that didn't bind your conscience, but I really want to understand that. And that's helpful to know. But also, like, that doesn't necessarily speak to you as an entire person. And
Yeah.
maybe I used to think that way just because it was easier, but it's not true. And you
Mhm.
engage the person, you think, all right, I might completely disagree with this decision, but let's label this decision as something that's crazy or awful or whatever, and separate that from who you are overall. And
Mhm.
Kennedy does that. Like he gives enough
Yeah.
nuance to be able to say like someone, and he himself is like throughout the whole book, like he was a racist. He says he was racist in this
Yeah.
way, and he names all of these actions and looks at those of in the moment, what was it that I did, rather than just blanket statementing a person.
Absolutely. Yeah. Which is something that was interesting because Carolyn Coca is someone who helped me work through the idea that people of color can't be racist and like women can't be sexist because you aren't benefiting from that. Like it's always sort of the power structure. It can't be you. But I do agree with, so when I was reading that with Kendi
And
and
he
what he was
says
saying.
no.
Yes, but at least, like, he wouldn't be going against or saying something against white people wouldn't be racist, but it's just that he was adding to the racist policies against his own people, and that's how he would. So I suppose if I were to add to the sexist policies against my own sex, then I would be sexist because 'cause I'm just adding to it.
Mhm.
But that was, yeah, something very
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, because it helps so much for Kenny to shift the discussion to talking about, okay, what is this action doing? Is this action resulting in a racist policy or an anti-racist policy? And if it's resulting in a racist policy, then that person is a racist no matter what. Like
Yeah.
that's a very clean category. It's not very nuanced.
Mhm.
That's one of the problems I had with the book is that it was really inflexible with the definitions that maybe didn't leave the nuance for people that I wanted, but yet it also was really clean and like it gave this system. And from beginning to end, he's incredibly, it's like communism. Like it's incredibly consistent. Like if I take this premise and then he follows it all the way through. But that premise, which comes, within the first like 3 pages, if you don't take that, then someone's gonna have a problem with a lot that's there.
Yeah. Yep. Speaking of communism, as an aside to this, there's a student at the school that you work at and I used to work at who would like to create the Yassers, the Young American Socialists. And he thinks this student believes that you maybe would like to be the teacher, the faculty advisor.
Wow. So
Would you
the,
be
the
up for that?
the opposite of Young Americans for Freedom for YAF is the Young American Socialists.
Yep.
Okay, that's the opposite. It would be I think it's so important for almost any space to have some kind of balancing voice,
Yeah.
and whatever that balancing voice would be to balance out the YAF people,
Yeah.
it isn't in that space and isn't in a lot of spaces, and that
Yeah.
would be a good thing. I don't know if it would be socialism, but
Okay.
absolutely there needs to be a balancing voice.
I'll let him know that you'll
Please.
consider the position.
It's important.
Yeah. Well, so to wrap up the empathy talk, I want to bring it back to Joker
Mm.
and whether you think that readers can or should have empathy for the Joker? And in your readings of Batman's interactions with him, do you feel like Batman has any empathy or love deep down for the Joker? Now, not erotic love, because I think, send you that article where there was a like a love story that this writer made basically between the two of them, and Lego Batman kind of has some shipping in there as well. But what do you think if we were to tie in our empathy with Joker?
Mm. I think that Batman seems to be able to deal with Joker in the way that he does because Batman does what he does with a lot of things. If he just kind of goes into robot mode and he relies on these principles that he in these rules that he has for everything. And he sticks with those. And this is one thing I want to talk about, like why, and they bring it up in the last laugh several times. One, like why not kill the Joker?
Mm-hmm.
And two, like, and this is an aside, like, why doesn't the Batman world execute the Joker? Like, why is he in Arkham? Why is he at the slab? Like, why, when you have murdered as many people as he has, like, why does the Gotham world, why have they not? I'm staunchly against the death penalty, but why have they not killed?
Man, what a hypocrite you are.
I'm just asking the question, but
Yeah.
yeah, really, like, it doesn't. It seems like how has that not come up? I mean, does this Gotham world not have the death penalty? I mean, I know Batman and all his buds don't do that.
Yeah. So it does have the death penalty, and the only reason I know that is because I just recently read a Batgirl story in 2001 where this man was going to be put to death by electric chair, and
Okay.
Batgirl tries to stop it, and then the mom of the victim said, says he had his chance to change, and they end up electrocuting him. So there is
Okay.
a death penalty. I don't know if it's something that Batman prevents happening with certain people, because he just wants them to change and he wants them to be better. I don't know. Or is it the insane plea where, maybe they've I don't know. Though
Yeah.
if after reading, what was it called? Just Mercy, that clearly does not help a lot of people who are mentally yeah. Have you read Just Mercy?
I have and saw.
Okay.
Yeah, I read it and saw the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I have yet to watch the movie, but
Yeah.
clears some issues. Yeah,
Well,
I could not answer that, but that is one of the questions
okay.
that, of course, we have with the Joker and why is he still alive? Question mark.
Okay. Well, I mean, if Brian Stevenson were here, he would repeat his line of "You are more than the worst thing you've ever done." So Joker
That's
is
true.
more than the 500 million worst things he's ever done.
Yeah, and the laughing
Um,
fish. Yeah.
I don't know if Batman empathizes him because I don't know what that would look like. Like
Yeah.
I don't see any exceptional treatment that Batman. I see exceptional treatment of Joker toward Batman. I mean, he's
Mm.
him out over and over and over and over and over
Mhm.
and over and over. But I don't know if I more see Batman responding to what Joker does. And so again, I'm curious in all the things that have been written about it. Like, are there these moments where something different happens with Batman of what he does? Like, does he break his rules? I mean, Nightwing by the end certainly breaks the rules
Yikes.
at,
Yeah.
at the end of Last Laugh, right?
Mhm.
So, and I want to talk about that because that was
Yeah.
that was huge. But
Yeah.
that's not Batman.
Yeah. No. I feel like if I were to see Batman showing any amount of like an extreme amount potentially of love or empathy or even compassion towards one person, it'd be Two-Face. But that's, I think, because of his pre-existing relationship with
Right.
Harvey Dent, and
Right.
so he tries so hard to help him out and hope for change. But with Joker, I don't know if he thinks he's too far gone, but he doesn't let people kill him, which I think speaks highly of some warring emotion that's going on with Batman. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe it is homoerotic love. We don't know.
If people believe it's a thing.
I know they do.
I mean,
Oh boy.
both of them, and that's a good point. I mean, both of them express exceptional treatment of the other person, I guess we
Hmm.
could say. I mean, Joker seeks him out over and over and, does
Yeah.
all the things, and Batman doesn't just not kill Joker, he also, as you said, prevents other people from doing it, which
Yeah.
isn't something that you regularly see Batman doing. So in that sense, they are both doing something exceptional to the other person, but what's underneath that?
Yeah.
What is that?
Something kind of broken underneath it potentially.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, well, before we get into it, of course, I have my Find Your Joy segment. which is called
Oh,
Shags Mac and Cheese of Comfort and Joy. So it's been since August that I last talked to you. So what have you been doing, or what has helped you find joy in, I guess, now stressful teaching times?
yeah, it has been very different teaching. Yeah, our school is meeting in person and we're still making it. So there are a lot of procedures and protocols and mitigation things that make it possible, but also make it so much harder. Um, Being outside has been big, both for us as a family and just for students. Like I do so much with technology in my classroom that in most other years I just don't have students outside because
Mm.
it's harder to replicate. But we have been outside, or I've been outside with my students more than ever before, and on some really cold mornings, just so that we can be outside. So that has, and I had a lot of students talk about that even back in March when COVID really first went down and we all were in quarantine and we were doing school online. A lot of them just kept writing about and talking about going on this walk with my family and being outside, or they would be doing class outside on their computers. So I think a lot of people have taken to that. It has been big for us as a family. Most summers we spend, because I'm with our kids in the summer since I teach in the school year. We're outside a lot, but we're also at like at pools or at splash pads, but all those were closed and are still closed. So we've been outside in lots of other ways, or like we've gone to lakes or we've gone to rivers, places that are not closed off. So being outside has been big, and it's gotten me kind of worried. Like we have a covered back porch upstairs, and that's been like our meeting place for interviews, for people, for articles that I've done, for hangouts, for book clubs. And it's starting to get cold, and I don't
Oh.
know, like, oh my goodness, what do we like buy one of those fancy restaurant heaters so we can still meet with people outside, but
Yeah, sure.
like we don't have anybody in our home. So it is, I'm we have used that outdoor space a lot. And so I'm wondering, oh goodness, what's gonna happen? But
Yeah.
being outside has been major and
Yeah.
absolutely like a joy and absolutely a need. But the weather's changing.
Yeah. Well, I'm enjoying that the weather's changing finally, though it's been a bit schizophrenic just with it'll get warm all of a sudden and then drop down, but I have been enjoying that. And now during work, I listen to an audiobook during my lunch breaks. I go out and sit
Mm.
outside, which is really pleasant. So I agree with you on that. Two times actually in the past couple days, I driven past where I would go down to get to your place. And so the people that I've been, I'm like, "Do you wanna go visit Sammy?" Which has been fun, but
Well,
yeah, and
come on down.
I know I tell them that you're so welcoming, and I think you actually mean it, like, if I just rolled up, you'd be so welcoming.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I'll
It
try that one day during Christmas break or something after work.
will be here. We likely will be outside.
That might be true, yep. And yeah, for me, my birthday just happened, so I think
Yeah.
that was kind of the
Yeah. There was a
joyous.
lot of buildup on Facebook. Oh
There
my
is a lot of
goodness.
buildup.
There
Yeah,
was a
it seems
countdown.
like it lasts for a month because, I mean, I'm counting down,
Yep.
and then I have all these adventures leading up to it, and the day of, not much happens, and then it's over, and you're like, wow, that's a bummer." But I did talk to my mom. I always talk to her at the time I came out in the primordial ooze, and we chat,
Oh.
yeah, at 8:27 PM.
Oh, well, at least it's not, like 3 in the morning.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, she did call me. We've been doing this thing for the past couple of years where we call each other midnight leading into the birthday. I did try this for her on her birthday. She fell asleep. So I did not get to her, but I was awake. So we did chat at midnight on my birthday.
Okay, good tradition.
Anyways, yep.
Okay.
Well, I think that we're going to get into this
Oh, boy.
Joker's last laugh. So this is you actually have a good position in this podcast because all of the other segments connect to this. So it's like this is the main event, and then I've got tie-ins that are connecting to it. So you should
Mm.
feel privileged.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Well, the story itself was like that. It felt like the nexus of every dang hero and villain on the
I
planet.
know, I felt so bad.
Every other page
Well,
of the notation, see this issue of this thing for the storyline.
oh yeah, that was a bit much. Yeah. Okay, so this story came out between December 2001 and January 2002. And the core storyline occurred in Joker Last Laugh Secret Files and Origins #1, and then the 6 issues of the actual story. And then tie-ins happened in, I'll just say, Action Comics, Adventures of Superman, Azrael, Agent of the Bat, Batgirl, Batman, Batman Gotham Knights, Birds of Prey, Detective Comics, The Flash, Green Lantern, Harley Quinn, Impulse, JLA, JSA, Nightwing, Orion, Robin, Spectre, Superboy, Supergirl, Superman, Superman the Man of Steel, Titans, Wonder Woman, and Young Justice. So it wasn't a little tie-in. I mean, it wasn't a little event, I should say, for DC. So we can talk about that and whether it was worth it or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll go through let me see here. I have all of how do I want to do this? I guess I'll start with Secret Files. And
Was
I'll
that
just
one written first or was that after?
Secret Files should have come first because that at least gives you the setup for
But
like
was
what
that one
happened.
written, was that still actually written first, or did they do the 6 and then go back and write like the prequel?
I believe that it should have come first,
Okay.
but that would, if I had done more research, I could have seen dates that it specifically came out.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So let's see here. I'll go through all this. So there are one, two, three, four, five, 6 stories, and then they also have profile pages, which is what these secret files usually do. So we've got A Clown at Midnight, written by Scott Beatty and Chuck Dixon, pencils by Pete Woods, inks by Cameron Stewart, and that is actually the setup to all this. You see how Dick and Babs go on the date and how all that
Mhm.
got set up. Joker getting tested out at the slab and finding out he's got this tumor. And then we get to know Shiloh and Dina a bit. Then we have Touched by Dan Curtis Johnson and J.H. Williams III. For plot, Dan Curtis Johnson script, J.H. Williams III pencils, and Mick Ray inks. And this was interesting because it was interviewing different people that had somehow been affected by Joker. And so you actually do see Babs, you see Harley Quinn, Batman pops up, things like that, and other people you may not know.
It was very text heavy.
It was text heavy. Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see. The Joker's Hard Sell, script Scott Beatty, pencils Leonard Kirk, inks Al Williamson, and letters Kurt Hathaway. And that one was that the one where it's like Bill Nye the Science Guy?
I thought that was later.
Might be right. I have to think about Hard Sell. Pardon me as I flip through these. Do, 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 do. Oh, it's with the person in the dog costume and saying, "Buy this book or I'll kill this dog."
Yep.
So that was the hard sell. And then it's kind of like, and then this guy pops in and he's basically a nerd because he's got polybagged for freshness and it's meta. I feel like it's meta. It's just like a commentary. It's like breaking the fourth wall kind of thing.
Hmm.
And it'd be disturbing if it weren't cartoonish violence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we do have a head chopped off.
Then we have Worm Food, script Jerry Ordway, pencils Pete Krause, inks Dick Giordano, and letters John Costanza. And this is about Mr. Mind, and there's a college student who steals him away. And then, of course, Mr. Mind goes in his head and he gets affected by it and all that stuff. Joker Fun Facts, script Jay Nitz, pencils Amanda Connor, inks Jimmy Palmiotti, and letters Kurt Hathaway. And that one is the
A
one where it's like
woman,
Bill Nye the Science Guy, and
you said
it's
Amanda, right?
what'd you say?
You said Amanda, right?
Amanda Connor, yes.
What? Okay.
Do you know who Amanda Connor is?
I just know she's a woman in a world of just.
Oh, okay. I was like, does he know who
No,
she
no,
is? But
no.
you're
Sorry.
absolutely right that it's the only woman's name on that whole page.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay.
It's gotten, yeah, she's been around for Amanda Connor and Jimmy Palmiotti are husband and wife team.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And
That's
yeah.
that's one way to spend time together.
Yeah, so that's a Bill Nye-esque little
Mhm.
story, and it's basically how to make the Joker toxin that we'll find out. And then the last thing is Joker's personal effects, and it's just written by Scott Beatty, which is basically what he was arrested with, I'm pretty sure.
Mhm.
And then our profile pages, we've got Shiloh Norman and Dina Bell, Black Mass, Multiman, Leather, Meathead, Carnivora, and Rancor. And all of them, for the most, well, I should say, Chuck Dixon and Scott Beatty are with the text, and then the pencils and the inks switch off and everything. And I will say that Dina Bell actually pops up in Birds of Prey 12, that I think 12 and 13, where she and Dinah go to Apocalypse. That's whole story arc. So just be aware of that. Okay. So that's just, I don't know. I mean, do you want to talk about Secret Files, like that first story, or do you just want to get into because everything might wrap into the main story anyways?
Yeah, no, it was I actually read this one last.
Okay.
So it was really interesting to have like I jumped right into the prison riot in
Yep.
the first issue and then and it felt like and I thought it was on purpose, like just thrown into it. And so reading this, it gave the build up in the background.
Yeah.
Um, but it gave a lot more depth to it. And I also, I mean, of the six storylines plus this one. I mean, this one had the clearest. This one had the clearest, most discernible storyline to it. I thought,
Yeah.
um, and I wish I had read that first. I think it might have. It maybe it would have affected my thought of the whole thing. I know you also said like you kind of had a strong overall thought about. Bless you. I think. Bless you.
Yeah.
I
Thank
think
you.
about the. I don't know about the storyline as a whole.
Yeah.
I mean, I try to separate the fact that I haven't read a ton of these other characters and not just be annoyed that this felt like, like an amped up Marvel movie times a billion,
Yeah.
with things going on everywhere and all these things happening. And it's one of the things I loved so much about The Long Halloween or Black Mirror. Like it was such a direct story.
Mm,
It was such a clear thing that was happening. And this wasn't that at all. It
yeah.
was it was all over. Can I say this now, the overall thing? Like
If
before
you
we
want to, I am going to do the synopsis, but yeah, if you want to.
well, it affected, I think, how I read all of these in that I think I don't fully think this, but I don't know of a better way to say it. Like in some ways it felt like an excuse to get all of these individuals into a storyline.
Hmm.
And the storyline itself doesn't advance much. Like it was just, what if the Joker thought he would die? What would he do? Oh, he
Yeah.
kills a ton of people, and then at the end of the story, we're right back where we were. The only thing to me that like advances the cause of this Gotham universe is the fact that Nightwing actually kills Joker, but
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah.
But he thought he did. And I would love to talk about that because that's character wise, that's a major, major thing. And sort of like with Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, I know that a ton of people had a lot of issues with it. But after I read it, one of the things that I said was I still felt like it advanced the story, like it advanced
Mm,
characters, even if there are problems with it and time travel doesn't work and Rowling just can't do it, which is true. But it's still, you still saw something different about the characters. I didn't feel that about anything except for what happened with, and it was Dick Grayson, right?
yep.
Nightwing. Yeah, except with that.
Yeah.
And so it was worthwhile for that.
Okay. That's good to know going into it. Yeah. And I will say, just so you know, I read the first issue and I felt like I was thrown in medias res. And so then I backed out and I read Secret Files and I realized
Mhm.
I needed to read that first. So you weren't alone in reading that one out of order. They don't always come at the tail end of storylines. And it also depends on how big the storyline is because they could pop in the middle or something like that. So
Okay.
my bad for not warning you. Hey, read this first so you get
Yeah.
a good
No, it's
idea.
okay. I mean, all of the plot points were still in the first issue. It was a slower build up to read the secret file.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, well, I'm going to go and give all the creator credits because they kind of changed with the exception of the writer. And then I'll give the synopsis, which I took from Wikipedia.
Mm.
Yeah. So the first issue is subtitled Stir Crazy, written by Chuck Dixon and Scott Beatty, pencils by Pete Woods, inks by Andrew Peepoy, and letters by Willie Schubert. Colors by Tom McCraw, and separations by Digital Chameleon. And then issue number 2, Siege Mentality, Chuck Dixon and Scott Beatty. Writers, penciler Marcos Martin, inkers Mark Farmer and Alvaro Lopez, colorist Tom McCraw. Number 3, Lunatic Fringe. Writers are the same. Artists Walter McDaniel and colorist Tom McCraw. Issue 4, Everyone Knows This Is Nowhere. Same writers. Artist Andy Kuhn, colorist Tom McCraw. Mad Mad World is number 5. Same writers. Artist Ron Randall, which should make the Sutherlands happy. And then colorist Gina Going. And number 6, You Only Laugh Twice. Same writers. And penciler Rick Burchett, inkers Mark Lipka and Dan Davis, and colorist Gina Going. And we'll talk about art because I do want to know your opinion on the art and the covers as well. Okay, here we go. Oh, while locked up in the Slab Penitentiary, the Joker finds out that he is suffering from a terminal brain tumor. Determined to go out with a bang, he causes a riot in the slab and, in the ensuing chaos, modifies the chemicals used by the prison to suppress its metahuman inmates into his Joker venom, and manages to Jokerize the other inmates, making them insane and changing their appearance, giving them white skin, red lips, green hair, and a wide smile. I mean, so they look like the Joker. The Black Canary, Nightwing, and Batman move in to put down the riot, while Dinah, Laurel Lance, and Shia. No, that's incorrect. While Dina, see, you have to double check some of these Wikipedia entries.
Come on.
While Dina and Shiloh Norman are trapped inside, the Joker prompts Black Mass to suck the prison into a black hole while he and the other villains escape. The Blue Beetle narrowly rescues the Black Canary, Batman, and Nightwing, while Dina and Shiloh are not so lucky. Barbara Gordon feels remorseful for being absent on a date with Dick Grayson, aka Nightwing, while the riot first broke out, and begins to wish that she could kill the Joker for the pain he has caused in her life. We're going to talk about that. Chaos soon spreads throughout the entire Earth, and United States President Lex Luthor. Did you recognize that's who it was?
I
The
did, but how did that happen? They called him Lex. Then I did a double take and
Yeah,
like,
we
wow.
we were given our that's our democratic freedom, is to vote for Lex Luthor as president. He declares war on the Joker. While the JLA searches for him, the Joker hides out on Easter Island and sends his minions to capture Harley Quinn so he can impregnate her and produce an heir. Harley is eventually rescued by the spoiler, Batgirl, and Power Girl. Meanwhile, the Joker grows disgruntled at the lack of creativity behind his minions' havoc, realizing that every other crisis involves red skies and crazy weather, which is a little nod to all the Crisis on Infinite Earths and Infinite Crises, all that stuff. With the assistance of Stormfront and Mr. 104, the Joker poisons the atmosphere and creates crazy rain, spreading his laughing toxin across the world. His next plan is the assassination of President Luthor. While the Jokerized villains are being rounded up, Kirk Langstrom, aka Man-Bat, discovers that the venom they are affected with is also deadly and works to produce an antidote with the reluctant help of Harley Quinn. The Black Canary also discovers that the Joker's CAT scans were modified and that the doctors lied to him about his impending death in the hope that it would cause him to lead a more sane life. Inside the slab, Shiloh and Dina are struggling to find a way to get themselves and the prison back to Earth. They initially try to find Black Mass to reverse the gravity well with the help of Mr. Mind. However, Dina accidentally shoots Black Mass during a run in with the Man Eaters. They eventually resort to killing Multi-Man over and over until he is able to reanimate Black Mass, who then sends them back to Earth. The Huntress is sent to Arkham Asylum to find Robin, who disappeared into the building and stopped sending out reports. After encountering Killer Croc, she finds what appears to be Robin's shredded outfit and his bones. Nightwing, enraged over Robin's death, goes to face the Joker, who is now holed up in Gotham Cathedral. Oh, there's the remember we talked about that,
I,
with one of his Jokerized metahumans placing a shield around the area. He can let in only whom he wants to and decides to have fun with Nightwing. Mercilessly taunting him, Dick beats him to death until the Batman family, Robin included, arrives on the scene, much to Nightwing's surprise. The Joker's heart is restarted and he is returned to prison. But Dick is distraught. He has crossed the line and simply walks out on his friends. Back at the slab, now located on an ice floe, the Joker is placed in a new cell with no entrances or exits. Shiloh Norman remarks that the only way to punish a performer is to take away his audience. And that is Joker's last laugh. And so a big question for me is why he was in the slab. And I was doing research, I was asking people. I finally posted to Twitter, and one of the writers, Scott Beatty, tweeted me back and said, Stella, I don't think we were specific about a particular arrest or conviction, except that this time the Joker was sent to the DCU's metahuman prison, literally a supermax for supervillains, because of his revolving door escapes from Arkham Asylum.
Which
So
were
that's how he got there.
frequent, please.
Yeah.
Oh,
So here we go. How should we begin this? Well, let's talk about the art. That's kind of an easier topic before we get talking about everything else. And
mhm,
we can also go through the covers as well and talk about the different colors. But overall, I mean, each of the issues were for the most part drawn by someone different. And
mhm.
now of the graphic novels you have read. So Sam, I mean, I think you've talked about your history before. I should have asked you again just for people who didn't listen to that politics. You're not a new reader, you don't consistently read comics, but
Mhm.
you have read several graphic novels. Um, is that pretty fair to say?
Yeah, yeah, I'd say, at least a couple dozen over the years and a bunch of those from you. Yeah.
Yeah. So for the graphic novels that he's read, of course, and anyone who's read those, you'll probably have a consistent team, art team and everything. So this was different. So how did you feel with each issue going in and there was a new pencil, a new
Mm.
inker or colorist or whatever? What did you think about the art in this story?
I I think I would have loved it if the story had been tighter. Again,
Mm.
like, it felt like it felt like a project that tried to do so much. It tried to bring in so many characters, so many storylines, and it also tried to bring in so many people. And I think both of those are really good things, but maybe those things are better done in separate worlds, so that you can excel really well at one of those over the others. Like, I love that all of those individuals came in so that there's something that's really unique for each one. And so in each of the covers especially was great and was unique and brought out a different something that was different for Joker, even just in how he looked.
Mhm.
But so far as I don't know, so far as what it did for the story, it felt like I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a movie analogy of something that was just like too big for its own good. I don't know. Did you ever see Pearl Harbor? Ben
Yes, of course.
Yeah, yeah, that was a movie that was just too big for its own good. Like, it was too many people, it was too much happening, like, it was too
Ugh.
long, like, it thought that it was this great thing,
Mhm.
and a deeper dive into something, I think would have actually allowed these things to come to the fore better. So that
Mhm.
was my first reaction, is that it felt like a really cool idea to bring some to have this storyline, but yet it felt overall to me, it felt really disjointed.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and there are going to be several follow-ups to go into the story itself and everything. But I do, for a full story or even, an arc of an ongoing comic, I love to have the same creative team just because I think it does give cohesion to it. And you want to see just like the same style throughout rather than get. And I'm not saying that any of this art was bad. I loved seeing Marcos Martin on issue 2 because that's like the dream team of Batgirl year 1 and Robin year 1. So to see Chuck and Scott and Marcos was great, and Ron Randall is a great artist as well. So they were all great. It was just like, oh wow, here's another artist, here's another interpretation.
Right.
And I wonder if there's like an outside commentary, like a meta commentary on this, because and you've read The Killing Joke, of course, and even Heath Ledger's interpretation that his history or his biography is multiple choice. You don't really know the exact nature of who he is and everything. So could that be something like, hey, we've got all these different interpretations artistically of Joker? Do you think it might be tying into that, or is that too like you're getting too deep for what this
I
actually
don't
is,
know, I
Stella?
think that's maybe giving more credit
Okay.
than maybe it's due. Again, it seems like it was just like, "Let's all get together and do this awesome thing, and it'll be so fun. Let's reference
Yeah.
all of these things." And if that's the goal, like, that's great, but if the goal was, like, this deep I don't know, if the goal was something like Watchmen, like this philosophical dive, but yet this epic story, that's amazing, and and Joker: Last Laugh didn't do it. If the goal was like this, like Batman Black Mirror, like to do this incredibly dark, but yet like very, very clear singular storyline, but to bring in a lot of people and different styles into it, like that,
Mhm.
that absolutely works. Or to do even the Killing Joke, to get to Alan Moore again, to have this story that felt like such a bold, decisive take on part of the story. That's great, but it didn't do any of those things.
Mm,
It almost tried to do a lot of those things, and therefore it didn't do any of those particularly well.
gotcha. Do you feel like what would you say the tone of this book is? Do you think that it is a dark story?
I don't. My first thought was playful and my second thought was chaotic. And I think both of those were intentional. But I think the chaotic was, again, like if that was the goal, to have all of this going on, it worked. But
Mhm.
if the goal was to do something singular and more uniform, it just didn't do it. But
I
no, it
would
wasn't
yeah.
particularly dark. But, like, even when you're reading those some of the description of what happened, like, there's some intense things and deep
Yeah.
things, like, they're dark and they're incredibly scientific and they pull in a lot, like, all of that. But
Mhm.
when you're reading it, it doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel the 3 that I referenced, The Black Mirror, Watchmen, or Killing Joke, like, all those had a weight to them that Last Laugh absolutely didn't have. It didn't have to. Or even Mad Love, like, which I loved and thought was amazing because, again, it was this deep dive of someone like, what if we did this one thing? What if we took, like, this one idea and let it play out? Whereas this felt like, what if we took these 50 ideas and threw them all together?
Yeah. I would agree. I think it is a lighter Joker tale. Maybe something you would see in like the animated series, but
Mhm.
some of the stuff that goes on does carry weight. I mean, we keep referencing and talking about it, and we are going to get to it. Nightwing, obviously. I think some of the Barbara Gordon stuff that I do want to talk about her characterization in it, that's really interesting. And then some of the things you don't even get to see because they focus on it in one of the tie-ins. So Dinah, the actual Dinah, Black Canary, and what happens to her because you kind of only see her get beat up here, but you don't see what actually happens until you read Birds of Prey. So there are serious moments in there, but some dark things that are happening are also treated lightly, like the multi man and just Joker like killing him over and over again. It's like super dark, but it's also funny. Just like, what power do you have now? Bam, what power do you have now? So
Right.
and chaotic. I certainly agree with you. And I think part of it is just like all those jokers running around, and it's hard to figure out what is his actual, desire. What is he trying to do? Do you
Mhm.
feel like this is too big of a story for Joker? Like it just gets too much. His desire to take over the world and whatever else it is beyond what Joker normally would do, even though he's dying.
I don't my first thought was, I don't maybe it was too big of a story for that many people who were involved in the project to take on. Like you talked about having a consistent creative team, maybe could have done a deeper dive into it. That was one thought. And the other thought was for Joker to, I don't know, to take over the world, maybe he had to Jokerize as many people as he did. But yet he didn't have to. And that's another thing. Like I wanted the story about Joker. Like if Joker is going to take over the world, I don't want it to be about all of the people who are with him at the slap. Like I would love to see what Joker would do, how he would bring in people or manipulate them into doing that, rather than just, I don't know, zombieizing those he was imprisoned with and having them as his minions go out and do it. I don't know. It almost felt kind of like a cheat. Like it was a Joker story, but it wasn't really about Joker.
Yeah. I feel like he would have this big hurrah in Gotham. Like for him to leave Gotham and to a certain
Yeah.
extent be remote and just be sending people and
From
be so
Easter
hands
Island.
off. I
Which,
just
why Easter Island? Because the spaces that they pick are really interesting.
yeah,
One, Easter Island, and then Gothic Cathedral. So the climax scene
yeah,
is in Gotham Cathedral, and let's dig in there.
sure.
But why? I mean, was Easter Island only so that they could make the joke that they did about painting the faces on the stones? I mean, why? Why that place of all
Maybe
places?
that song, Isn't there a Christmas song about spending Christmas? I want to spend Christmas on Easter Island or something like that. Isn't that Ella Fitzgerald's song? Anyways, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why. It just seemed weird. Like he was almost hands off.
Yeah,
And he does
right,
have minions, but he also, I feel like he's always got his hand in whatever mission against Batman or whomever he has. So it just was odd to see all these Jokers run around, but the main Joker is not doing as much beyond the first point. And it's interesting because he's portrayed as really intelligent, which I think is probably true of him, but you see that he knew, like, the toxicity and what he needed to jokerize everybody. So it's like this really brainy guy, and then all of his plan is kind of bizarro to connect to that
right,
almost.
right. Yep, that did not feel consistent.
Yeah. So let's see, shall we talk about Barbara Gordon a bit?
Yes, we
Okay.
must, right?
I'm sorry?
I said we must, right?
We do have to, yeah. So I was interested in her characterization, and also we can talk about. I felt like Batman wasn't in this story very much, which I thought was
Yeah,
interesting. But we even start with there are a couple interactions between her and Dick, and they're not the best. He tries to calm her down a bit. I'm on issue 1, I guess, when they're in their car and everything. And let's see here. Doo-doo-doo. Only one thing.
what
Yeah,
do you think? You asked about what I thought about the tone of the whole story. I mean,
sure.
what did you think about the characterization of Babs? I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Ooh,
you had and still have very strong views on Babs and the
I sure
Killing
do.
Joke.
Yeah.
And so, like, did you have a similar reaction to her?
Yes. Oh, of what I think about this. So it's and I'm looking at this now, just that I mean, she basically wants the Joker dead. She thinks that this would be the easiest way to solve the problem. I think she says this in issue 1 and issue 2, and both times Nightwing's like, "No, we don't do revenge. This is not us." Which is interesting towards the end. I'm not really sure how that ending comes about, but it just seems like there's a lot of hostility coming from her, and I feel like, at least in the pages of Birds of Prey, that while he's always there, she's been monitoring him. So there's been a big lead up to this, that she doesn't, I feel like I can't say she's gotten over it, but I don't think she would ever cross this line, like, let's get rid of him.
Mm,
So I almost feel like it's a bit of a mischaracterization that all of a sudden, like, all this anger and hostility is out there, which clearly she's not a fan of the Joker. But I don't know if this just feels like it's coming. This would be what I would see Barbara doing way earlier in her career. I would say that,
right?
rather than a seasoned veteran who's been dealing with him. She's already had a run in with him earlier on in Birds of Prey. So I'm a bit confused where this is coming from. And what's more confusing is that it's Chuck Dixon writing it, who is writing Birds of Prey. So it's just odd to see that this characterization is coming from the guy who's been characterizing her since issue
Mm,
1 of Birds of Prey, and we're on 36 or whatever I think I'll do in this 200th episode. So for me, it seems like a mischaracterization. Like I feel like I'm reading a Babs that would have been earlier on, right after the Killing Joke, but not what she's been doing now, who's been working through, I think, these feelings about the Joker. Don't trust the Joker, absolutely. But this, I don't know.
and she's obsessive. I mean,
Oh
with
yeah.
videos and watching those, again,
Yep.
that's not I don't know what brought that about, or just like you said, it should have been something that,
Yeah.
right after the incident,
Mhm.
that would have made sense. Yeah, it felt even when I read that, that felt really out of place. I mean, she felt like what had happened was very, very raw, and that it had just happened. She was obsessive, she was upset, she was angry,
Mhm.
and yeah, I was gonna ask, like, how far since the incident was this supposed to be? And it sounds like a while.
Yeah. And even, I mean, her second interaction with Dick, he's saying, "I don't want the Joker to come between it." Like, it's causing that amount of a break between relationships right
Yeah,
now. I feel like she's a bit beyond this, so it's almost revisiting something. Yeah, if this were in another timeline, I think we could get it, but she's even saying, "We don't do anything permanent to stop him." So it's really this huge thing about getting rid of him, and I do like that one scene with her and Tim where he, hugs her after Dick walks away because clearly she's not okay. And I will say that art wise, I don't think you know this, but the editor, once Birds of Prey started up, he told all artists that you could not put handles on the wheelchair
Mm.
because she doesn't get pushed. She pushed herself. And actually, I'm seeing art right now that there's some handles on there.
Oh,
But
wow.
what's strange for me then, so I'm saying that it's inconsistent with what I've seen of Barbara currently. My inconsistency within this whole story is that it's almost like we transfer all of this to Nightwing at the very end. So he's been the one who's saying, "We don't do this, we don't kill, no matter what, we just gotta let the Joker stay alive." And
Yeah.
then he kills him. So he does cross that line because he thinks that Tim Drake has been killed. So what do you feel like that was a consistent character? Like, did that make sense for this guy who's been the advocate to keeping Joker alive, all of a sudden snaps and then goes after the Joker and for a moment kills him.
Well, I mean, I feel like anybody who's involved with Batman is liable just to snap, right? He's kind of crazy and dark and just does that to
Gosh.
everybody
Yeah.
around him. But I also thought with Dick, it might have been he felt guilty. I mean, he pulled Babs away on this forced date, which the tone of that to me was weird anyway. When all of this went down. And so
Yeah.
he felt like, at this moment when all of Babs's obsession with Joker could have
Mhm.
actually been productive,
Mhm.
when it might have actually been worthwhile, he is the one that pulled her away, and maybe that to me made what he did feel at least consistent within that storyline. I don't know how consistent that is within his character from other comics and other issues, but to me, it felt like he might have just felt really guilty on top of being
Yeah.
upset about feeling his friend had died as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at this. She's saying no one hates him more than me, no one wants him dead more than me, but this isn't the way. So it's just interesting to go from issue 1 and 2 all the way to 6 and see that
Yeah,
all of that has changed for sure.
yeah. And it just shows she's I don't know, she wants him dead, but she doesn't want him dead in that way. Like,
Yeah.
She doesn't want Dick to do it. She wants some it to happen in some other way. I mean,
Mhm.
either for, like, Joker just to die or someone else to kill him
Mhm.
or even Batman to kill him. But Nightwing seems to undo her in a way that she didn't expect. And again, it's all in Gotham Cathedral.
Mhm.
So it's which can I mean, can I want to say this because I don't want to forget it, but it's a sacred space.
Mhm.
I mean, he does this act of killing him, which you could say, like, because it's in Gotham Cathedral, that like it's divinely sanctioned. But then you have the Joker resurrected
Yeah.
within Gotham Cathedral, like this biblical Christ-like resurrection. My big question is why, because the Joker sends the note to meet in Gotham Cathedral, right?
Mhm.
So it makes sense, like, that he kills him in Gotham Cathedral. It makes sense that the Joker's resurrected and the symbolism of Jesus within all that. But why did the Joker pick that as a location?
That's a good question.
No, I mean, you mentioned, like, he's gonna have it would have made more sense to, like, camp out in Gotham rather than
Yeah.
Easter Island. So at least, like, the climax, the Joker pulls it back to Gotham.
Mhm.
But why specifically the cathedral? Why is that significant for a reason I'm missing? Or, like, does the cathedral come up in other ways? Like, I just don't see I just what does that
Yeah,
mean
what's the
to the Joker?
significance?
Or is it that the Joker still thinks he's dying and, like, this is his final, like, subconscious reach towards something divine of if he's gonna die, he wants it to be in this sacred space?
That's interesting, yeah. I don't know. And I mean, we talked about with the politics in Gotham that it's religious structures were just used for, I think, what was it, destruction porn or something like that?
Yeah,
It was something like that. And then also just settings.
right.
And so,
Like, the trainings happen for the army or something in the
yeah,
Gotham.
there were some arms sales going on in No Man's Land,
That's
things
it.
like that. Yeah.
That's what it was.
So, my knee jerk would be like, well, it's just a setting, but I do feel like there is probably something significant there. Um, I don't know if it's a central waiting point because that note just says Gotham Cathedral. That's all it says. And so I don't think I can give you a valid answer for this of why. I mean, perhaps. I mean, if you're gonna get die, then why not get as close to your maker as possible? And he's even wearing a, or someone is that him? An Elvis costume.
Yeah. Yeah, and Elvis never died. Or he came back, 'cause, right, there's sightings of him all over, and it was you see the Joker, I don't remember which one it is, but of him praying.
Yeah.
Um, so there are these religious moments, and again, I assume it's just all because the Joker thinks that he's gonna die, and he's
Yeah.
thinking about the afterlife, and so those things are brought in. I mean, but again, in Tim Burton's Batman, like, the
Mm.
epic confrontation of Batman, and I mean, is it an illusion of that? I mean, of the epic confrontation in Batman, the first movie was at Gotham Cathedral with Kim Basinger screaming so
Oh.
shrilly,
Oh boy.
over and over. That was Gotham Cathedral too. So
Yeah.
is it a throwback to that?
It could be. I mean, I wouldn't put it past the writers, but it's interesting that it's not Batman though, it's Nightwing.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
who's going
Which I
after him.
wonder if was the best way to was Joker thinking the best way to upset Batman was to corrupt one of his most beloved and
Yeah.
to get Nightwing to kill him, Joker.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to work. Like Batman doesn't seem all that pissed. He's just like, well, just let him walk it off. He has to deal with it in his own way. And I'm like, your boy just like broke your biggest
Yeah.
rule, and you're not like Babs is upset, thankfully,
Mhm.
but Batman is, not doesn't seem to be feeling it in the way that I would expect.
Yeah, and I will say if the characters apart from Nightwing aren't against him or, shaming him, Nightwing, as it happens in future stories or tie-ins and things, is really beating himself up about it and feels like he doesn't deserve the costume anymore. And Babs tries to talk to him. So he's at least feeling it. So if
Mm,
Joker had his way, he didn't necessarily one up Batman in corrupting, but I think he definitely like destroyed Nightwing to a certain extent. So he won a little bit. But I feel like that wasn't was that his point all along though? So that's the whole thing of like this story is I feel like smaller because it's in the slab and then it gets huge and then it's like really really small like just with this the pinpointing of the bat family with Joker and everything
mhm,
and that's it. I agree with you that it's chaotic, and I'm trying to find the thread of, what was his main intention. His last hurrah was really big, and then actually, no, I'm going to go back to original Joker and just try to tear down the Batman family or beat them in whatever way that I can. So that's kind of a confusing point for
yeah,
me with this story.
yeah. It
Oh man,
ends by saying, you read it at the beginning, the best way to get against the Joker is to take away his audience.
yeah,
I mean, I that struck me, you tell me, but that struck me as a mischaracterization of what the Joker actually wants. Like,
hmm.
I never got the impression that the Joker wants an audience. I just get the impression that the Joker just wants to bring about chaos. He doesn't care who's watching.
Hmm.
Just want like I don't know, the idea of an audience makes some things feel performative. And the Joker is incredibly performative, but like he's gonna be performative if he's on an island like by himself. Like it doesn't, in putting him in a cell with no entrances or exits, like he's not gonna care. Like he's still gonna
Yeah.
be Joker. Like it doesn't feel like you're depriving him of the thing that he most desired, which was an audience. That
Hmm.
didn't ring true to what it seems like the Joker ultimately wants to me.
I feel like it depends on the incarnation because in Lego Batman, doesn't Batman like ignore the Joker, like turn around?
Well, how much weight are we giving to Lego Batman?
Well, it's an incarnation. I don't know. I will
No,
say that there are
you're
some.
right.
What'd you say?
I said you're right.
Okay.
That was
So I don't know. It's one of those like if a dog is doing something bad or wants attention or a child, you just like ignore them and they stop wanting attention.
yeah.
I don't know if that's, you're the Joker connoisseur. I will say that there are a couple storylines where if people specifically Batgirl has laughed at the Joker and he does not like that. If
Mm.
you're laughing at him and not like he made a joke, I'm laughing, but I'm just laughing because you're a ridiculous person. He does not like that. Um, which is, yeah, he
Was
does.
that specific to Batgirl, or has that been other characters that have brought about
I
that
have
reaction?
only seen it at least in my coverage and everything of Barbara laughing at
Okay.
him.
I wonder if that's specific to her or why, if it is,
Perhaps.
of why.
Yeah, don't laugh at me. Whoo.
Yeah. And was that
Yeah.
pre or post shooting?
Oh, let's see here. One of them was
Well, because they wasn't
pre
he wasn't
and one was post.
one was okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Hmm.
So, but yeah, in regards to that, Joker, does he need an audience? Hmm.
Yeah, I don't think the Joker's doing it for that doing what he does for that kind of reason. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that he wants or that he needs attention. I feel like he's gonna do it no matter what.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's probably really true of this issue. I mean, even if the world weren't watching, he would have done the exact same stuff.
Right,
So,
right.
well, actually, before I get into that, do you agree that Nightwing killed Joker?
In what sense? Like, his heart stopped, right? That's official death.
Okay. Well, how did he come back? That's what I want to know. I kept reading that over and over. I'm like, I guess they did compressions 1, 2, 3,
Well,
14,
because
15.
they mentioned somebody gave him mouth to mouth, right?
Oh man, that poor kid. Oh yeah, who gave me mouth to mouth? Oh man.
Yeah, and so
Okay,
as
so
soon as
he
they ordered
does
mouth to mouth
actually.
compression,
Okay.
yeah, so he was gone. So it counts as it killed him.
Yeah. And even Dick says he was dead and I was happy about it. He won. And the Joker won because of me.
Which is true of which, like, is a statement which is one of the 2 statements in the whole story arc that rang the truest. The
Yeah.
other was, I wanted to read this quote. It was in Mad Mad World, so in number 5, and a Batman says it, and of course Batman would say this because he's the best ever. He says this about Joker's mind. He says it was a billion fiery locusts blotting out a dead black sun,
Mm,
which is just poetic and brilliant, to describe it that way. And
yeah.
again, that's Joker's mind. It's not, I don't think it's an attention hungry mind. If he wanted attention, then he would actually go for Harley, right? Like, she
Mhm.
give him more attention than anybody in the world, and he totally shuns her. So, like, it's just he is a billion fiery locusts blotting out a dead black sun. Like, that's really intense, and that's all he is.
Yeah. Do you feel like this, apart from being a Joker story, is a Nightwing and Barbara Gordon story? And that it's not so much a Batman story? Or is it a Batman family story, but focusing on Dick and Babs?
I mean, the Dick and Babs almost to me are most important at the beginning and at the end. And then there's all the chaos in between, and then the weird Shiloh Dinah storyline, which
Mhm.
to me felt like it felt completely unnecessary, and that you could have accomplished everything that
Yeah.
happened with them without that happening at all. So I don't know. I think that it's not a Dick and Babs story because I see them only kind of bookending it. It's not Batman because he's just not in it enough until
He's
the
yeah.
end. I feel like they wanted to make it a Joker story, but
Mm,
again, it wasn't a Joker story. It was a, like, every character times a million story. And if they'd wanted to make it a Joker story, make it about the Joker. Don't make it about all the Jokerized villains.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't know. I think that they wanted it to be a Joker story, and to me it wasn't. And again,
Yeah.
it doesn't advance the character of anybody to me other than Dick.
Mhm.
For Babs, for the reasons you already brought up, it, like, brings her back.
Yeah,
Like, wait a
retroactive.
second,
Yeah.
like, you should be years beyond this mindset and these behaviors, or you should have been feeling this all along, and
Yeah.
you haven't. Like, you were doing other things.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's been watching him with surveillance in Birds of Prey, and I can totally get that. Don't trust him, surveillance, but to jump to her hatred and I want him dead kind of thing was a bit of a leap for me.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely not a Batman story. I mean, there are several moments where I thought I think Batman would be here. Like it takes him a while to get to the slab. Things are going on in the slab that he should have been aware of way sooner, which
yeah.
is just really interesting. Dinah, Black Canary, is basically playing the part of Batman in the beginning because she's the first one in there. And part of that goes to, I feel like, because Chuck Dixon is writing it, because he's writing Birds of Prey, and Birds of Prey is Barbara and Dinah Lance, aka Black Canary. So it makes sense that yes, she would send her agent out into the field, but it just is confusing. The Justice League take a while to show up, and it's like a global scale issue. But where's Batman? And then all the Bat characters are starting to trickle in with Huntress and Cass and Steph. And Babs, that was an interesting issue because Cassandra and Steph, which would then spoiler is Steph and Cassandra is Batgirl. She at first says like, "You're not going in there," and then she has to send them in the field because there's no one else apparently.
Right,
So it just shows her desperation.
right, right.
And then Huntress, I'm a Huntress apologist, and people get on me for that, but I did like that she played a big part. She went to go find Robin, which that was a good mission, I think, because they worked together before. And then just the fight between her and Croc, I think, showed her prowess. And then she actually fought alongside Batman because he's not very kind to her. So there were some good things there.
Okay, okay. There's some
Um,
redemption.
Here's a question for you. I've often wondered whether Joker was is asexual, as in he has no sexual desires or feelings. I don't think I've talked about this with you.
You've
Have
mentioned that, but nothing more than I remember you said that to me.
Okay, so I don't like give evidence or anything. But so we know in one of these issues, I can't remember which one it was, might be 4 or whatever. He's going after Harley, and it seems mainly he just wants a legacy. There's no like romantic feelings whatsoever. And we know that Harley has had romantic and sexual feelings towards him, but I always felt like Joker, there's not much of a need for him. So I wonder what your perception from the different incarnations that you watched are of Joker and his sexuality. And is there anything deeper with what he wants from Harley? I mean, besides the legacy.
Yeah. Mm. I mean, Harley would be an easy one, right? Like, she's
Yeah.
so ready, she's so excited. She's
I,
she is there. And he doesn't and I wonder if it's I don't know, he completely reject and he doesn't just reject her, he, like, denigrates her. Like,
yeah.
it's not just that I don't like you, it's like it is a full-on rejection. And so I wonder what that is. Like, why is she so beneath him? Um, I don't and when she is in some ways such a female version of what the Joker is.
Mm,
I mean, I mean, she was created by him in a sense, right?
yeah. Yep.
So you would think if anything, like her almost as a protege, he would be flattered.
Yeah.
But he's not. Anyway, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of giving evidence to that. Like he should want her in all the ways, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
Um, and in all the, with you didn't see Joker, Joaquin Phoenix, right?
I
You
did
still
not.
are refusing. Like there is, he desires a character and has a sexual relationship with her in the film, sort of. But at least you see him desiring it. But you
Okay.
with Heath Ledger in the Dark Knight trilogy, you don't see any of that at all.
Hmm.
That doesn't play a role. So, one film version does, one film version doesn't. Um, so if we're excluding the Joaquin Phoenix version, which I think you would be happy doing, then yeah, I can completely see. There's not there the only person I see him having affection for is Batman. I mean, is it like preschool or kindergarten when like I really like you and I'm going to be mean to you, and so like the fact that the Joker just tries to kill him all the time means that he cares for him that much,
Hmm.
because you don't see him doing that with anybody else. I mean, is that the way that he shows affection?
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder, I think about Mariko Shaper, our friend, Shaper Doctor, and her interpretation of cats. She says that not the musical, Cats, the animal. She says that cats are like hot girls, where if you pay them attention, they don't like it and they're mean to you. But if you ignore them, they want to be with you at all times. And so I wonder if that's like Joker with Harley that it's just too much. If she were to just leave him alone and ignore him, maybe he would have some sort of. And it's true that when she runs away from him or is absent from him, like he wants to get her back. He wants to get her back.
Yeah.
So weird, yeah.
Yeah. Well, what else do you think for your asexual theory? Where else does that come from?
I guess a lot I look at the animated series with some of those episodes and just she's always hanging all over him or has like a sexy dance and a cake and for his birthday, or I can't remember. And just like no reaction whatsoever. Um, but at the same, I'm looking at well, yeah, you didn't see Suicide Squad. So he seems more sexual, I think, than Heath Ledger's obviously, and I haven't seen the Joaquin version, so I wouldn't be able to say.
Mm.
But there's clearly, I think, a sexual attraction between him and Harley in Suicide Squad, and I think that I guess, I don't know, try not to be crass. I think that there's probably a physical relationship there.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like that's not he doesn't need it. He doesn't need it. It's not something that he necessarily pursues, whether it's Harley or anyone.
Mhm.
But
Yeah. I mean, and
I can
is that just a result of him being the Joker? Like, or is that
that's interesting. Yeah.
yeah, because what which backstory are we gonna take when he
Yeah.
actually has a family or when he doesn't? Is that has that always been part of who he is, or is that something that came as a result of his insanity? Which is
Yeah.
not real insanity again, right? Like
Mhm.
you can't no, you're not you can't be that insane and that smart at the same time. So that's another reason why that the Joker so fascinates me because like that's just not real, right? Like the Hannibal Lecters of the world don't, at least for the most part, like don't seem to actually exist. Or you can't be as reckless as the Joker is, but it's almost never reckless. It's always this like Machiavellian scheme that's just amazing. But yeah, he's supposed to be crazy. It's such an unbelievable character that you never know what's going to happen with it,
Yeah.
and it's such a versatile character to do so many things. And he's not just a character that lends insight to other people, like he himself has these layers. I mean, the fact that we're talking about if he's asexual and debating it like is there's so much that's there.
Yeah. Yep. Um Let's see here. I think I'm winding down in my questions. I will agree with you that the slab stuff with Shiloh and Dina, I think, goes on for entirely too long.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand, I guess probably the writers wanted those characters to keep popping up so we wouldn't forget about them. But you could have either not had them or and had some heroes doing the same thing, or I don't know, just had them at the very end. But it
Yeah.
certainly wasn't I wasn't grabbed by that.
Yeah.
The ending here, we have Barbara deleting the logs, deleting, I assume, the current video feed as well, and then rolling away. And I think she's got. Well, there's narration. I can't remember if she's narrating or if it's somebody else. It might be
Uh-huh.
Shiloh. I've decided to put. Yeah, I think it might be Shiloh. Um, so it says, except for a monitor in my office, nobody but the computers watch him now. And as well as being tireless and vigilant, they're pretty humorless because without an audience, he's powerless. He can't have the last word or the last laugh, right? And
Right.
so she rolls away,
Head down.
head down. Yeah. So I just wonder, do you think that he did have the last word or the last laugh with what happened?
Well, it just depends what he wants. I mean, did he wanna I mean, the fact that her head is down,
Yeah.
like, shows she hasn't left it behind. She deleted it, but she hasn't deleted it, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is not Barbara Gordon, right? Right? Like, tell me this, just the fact that she deletes it, like, is this great and this heroic thing, and again, like, "Oh, character development," and then her head is down.
Yeah.
I mean, she's upset. I don't know. The fact that it ends with her head down means it's not over, and the fact that it ends with right means it's certainly not over. So
Yeah.
in a way, the Joker did win. Like he's made this permanent imprint on Babs, and she'll never recover apparently. And he got Nightwing to kill him. Right? He made
Yep.
him the killer. And so if the Joker still wants to harm the Batman family, like he's done it. Like he's ruined Babs's life. He's he's affected it in a way that's difficult forever. I'd put it that way. And
Mhm.
from what you're saying, he's ruined Nightwing forever, right? Like Dick
Yep.
is not he's not the same either. I don't know. He's like Frank Underwood, and that he infects every person that
Yikes.
he's around in this
Yeah.
way.
Yep. So I feel like he did have, yeah, that question mark, right? Like there's that question, do you think did he or did he not? And it seems like he did have the last laugh. Potentially her deleting it is maybe her trying to wrest back control of her life and not be so consumed with watching him. So I think that's a positive thing. But the head down means that even though I've done this, he has, just like you're saying, he has irrevocably changed me. He has affected Nightwing as well. So it's positives and negatives, I think, with this last page.
Mm.
Oh, well, let's see if I have any more questions.
Where does the Joker storyline go from here? Does he escape from the slab again? Does he go back to Arkham? Like what?
Yeah, I could not say.
Is
Yeah, because
there
now he's on
still-
an ice floe. Yeah. I don't know in my current history of where I am. So I'll have to get back to you on that one. I'm sure
Just
someone
because
will write in and be like, "The Joker's gonna do da 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 da."
yeah, just because I wonder. I mean, if this was meant to be the last laugh,
Yeah.
and nothing's ever the last in comics. Like what comes next
What?
for him?
Yeah, for
I
sure.
also want to ask, what did you think about the art? And were there issues or covers that really stood out to you of capturing certain things?
Yeah, I
I
do.
didn't hear what you thought.
Oh yeah, so definitely, I agree. I like consistency within a storyline or an arc. I did like issue 2 just because Marcos Martin, I'm a big fan of. Now I'm just going through the different covers to see
Yeah.
what they're all like. Um, yeah, there's some chaos. I could actually do a little share screen here.
Oh, great.
Boop. And show the different covers. So this one's 2. Are we good? So already with the chaos here.
Yeah. And I love this because like look at Joker's face. In a lot of portrayals of the Joker, he gets such a silly face.
Yeah.
This is not. This is like diabolical intent. Like I'm scared of this Joker, and I
Yeah.
love the suit. Like that's such a classic thing with him. Like all his muscle shirts and all the weird things he was wearing, like just was silly Joker. And to me, that's not fully who he is. Like the Joker is, and that's one of the good things I liked about the Killing Joke. Like dark, scary, like
Mm.
you would be terrified of him in a room, Joker. Like that
Yep.
that cover gets it.
What's the first one I think is by Brian Boland. I just lost my files. And I was going to say something and now I've forgotten what it was.
For the first one
Yeah.
of him throwing up the DC logo.
Yeah, like a bouncing ball.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I feel like that's classic Joker. Yeah, this one will really kill you. Yeah, Brian Boland. So he's of course the one who is the artist for The Killing Joke.
Yeah, yeah. And that's and again, that's a great one. This one's a good mix of like silly Joker and like I'm very scared of you.
Yeah, but looking at this, I would say that the tone is going to be serious and dark, and there's
Right,
not going to
and
be any
it's
fun.
not.
Yeah, it's
I
not. Yeah.
Yep.
How do you, well, if you were to read more comics, I'll say it that way, what would be your desire for covers? Would you like covers to telegraph more or less what's about to happen in the issue with mystery, of course, but at least to not lie to you? Is this coming up? Or would you like it to be like the first one where it just shows the Joker, but it's not really telling you anything of what's inside? Do you have a preference for either of
Yeah,
those?
like I want the cover to hit what the tone of the story is. And that's similar, and I'm the same with book covers too, especially like for a novel. Like I don't need to know from a cover what's going to happen in the plot. Like
Mhm.
I'm going to read the book for that, or I'm going to read I'm
Yeah,
going to read the blurb on the back to tell
sure.
me. But like I want something that arrests me, and that like the one that's up right now, like
Yeah.
Like, that's silly, like, whatever. Like, I
All
don't
those
need to
tiki men, yeah.
yeah, like, I don't need to know those things, that's fine, but, like, capture the tone, capture what this I don't know, what the essence of this is, and that's one thing about movie trailers that I love too, like, I love movie trailers that are, like, a single scene and a deep dive into this moment so that, like, oh, I know, like, the tone of what's gonna happen rather than, like, I can watch this and I feel like I've literally seen the whole movie.
Mm,
I don't like that. I think that's a cheap way to I don't know, to draw people in.
yeah.
To overplay your hand, in meaning and reveal just too much.
Here's this guy.
Mm,
Comes at a good time in our nation's history. I love this
yeah,
country.
yeah. And this one, oh man, we could talk about this one, forever. Like it's sort of like coronavirus, right? Like the Joker couldn't do what's happening anywhere else in the world, but in the United States.
Yeah,
COVID is able to do what it's doing because of problems within the United States.
yeah.
Can I say that?
Well, you just did,
Said it.
so
I said it.
um, another question as we continue, I only have 2 left, I think. The guy who lied about the scans, besides that being an ethical issue and it potentially costing lives, I don't know what the body count is on this story, but
Right.
with the Joker, I mean, people have died. Do you what should be the what should happen to that man, do you think?
Well, it seems like he's already done it to himself. Whatever should happen to him, he already seems like a shell of a person. I mean, he
Mm,
was unkempt and depressed and drinking and it seems like he got the weight of it. It also seems like his intentions were good. I mean, he wanted to calm the Joker down by doing this, right? Like,
yeah,
and if all of these other things that they're doing don't work, like why not try that? So, his action had all these unintended consequences, but at the same time, like it was a good idea for what it was that he wanted to accomplish.
yeah, it's interesting, but it had the wow. I guess that makes sense that someone would think if they're on their last leg that, they would try they would confess their sins and try to restart whatever last moments that they have and on a good foot, but
Yeah.
it just went the other way where, yeah, you might just go balls to the wall and
Yep.
bucket list, and that's
Yep.
what Joker did.
I showing me these covers now that I'm seeing them all at one point, like, oh my goodness. To me, like very clearly, like part one and part two are the superior covers.
I do
Um,
like this one that it's kind of a nod to Gene Kelly and Dancing in the Rain.
yeah, that's fun, but
That's
that's again, that's more like silly Joker, but
yes.
that is a cool illusion.
And then our last one, which is a bit of I would say a lie to us.
Yeah, yeah. See,
Yeah,
absolutely. Not even real. That's like movie trailers that put in like a clip or a scene that's not even actually in the movie. And
yeah,
yeah, no. Yeah, the first two are, I think, are amazing. Especially the first one part in Stir Crazy, I think is the best cover, but that's not actually capturing the tone of what happens.
mhm,
But in part two, in Siege Mentality, it's the best cover that actually captures what's going on
yeah, very
and
true.
but it doesn't get silly, and I love that it's an aerial shot.
Mhm,
So the first one again I think is the best, but it's not faithful to what the series actually is, but the second one is really good and actually captures the tone.
how would this issue 6, how would this one have changed if it were Nightwing in the place of Batman?
Then that would be it, because the Joker actually did win. But again though, if the Joker's goal is to really, like to get at Batman in the deepest way by getting at those that he cares about,
Yeah,
then and if Dick was one of those, and of course Dick is, then in that sense he won.
mhm. I guess with if they had put Nightwing in here though, that would have been such a shocker because you expect Batman and Joker to be paired up together.
Right.
So it would have gone against, I guess, mainline thinking or, status quo to have Nightwing there. And I think that would have been really interesting
Yeah.
potentially.
Yeah.
I think those are all the questions that I have if I were to scan through.
Mm.
Do you have anything else you would like to talk about with this story?
No, I'm glad we got to the covers. Oh, one other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing. So the military is insanely stereotyped in this. And one, I wonder how consistent that is with other comics. But the line that stood out to me was when the guy said, the general or whoever, "We weather it, then we look for someone to shoot." I mean, it like the military is just a prop to further the plot. Like, is that, and they but
Yeah.
at the same time they're like, we don't like these superhero civilians, even though like
Mhm.
of course they're all the ones like doing the real work. Like, is is the military used that way that often? Do we ever get some depth?
I don't think so. I think I'd probably have to talk to or read some more Superman, which you don't read. But
Mm,
with General Lane being the father of Lois, I think that might be the only time there might be some depth. But in another segment of this show, there's a story with Batgirl, and three characters are used to test out this weird scientific ray where it puts them in the simulation, and then they have to decide to murder, and it like tracks how long it takes. And they had a priest, and I think
oh,
it took him an hour or something to decide to murder, and I thought, "Jerkins, what would you decide
wow.
to do that?" A soldier, I think, took, like, a matter of minutes, which makes sense, and then a Batgirl, I think, was, like, a moment. So there was just, like, another stereotype of killing is right there, it's second nature, it only took that guy a couple minutes to come up with a scenario that made it okay for him to kill.
Yeah.
So as far as my experience with any military presence, it is pretty, like,
Okay.
stereotypical like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you're reading something like the Nom from Marvel Comics, that's something completely different, though.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay, how should we rate it out of 10 jokers?
Ooh, and 10 jokers being like,
If it's 10 out of 10 jokers, that means that this is an amazing story, it's perfect, there's nothing wrong with it.
oh
So,
man.
out of how many out of
Do
10
you
jokers, what would you
do
give
you
Joker's
have do
last
you have
laugh?
your number?
Do I have my number? No,
Yeah.
do you want me to go
Well,
first?
I think let's say them at the same time, but I
Oh, no.
because I don't want us to influence each other, but I'm trying to decide on my number. Yeah, I think I got it. All right, we'll say 1, 2, 3, and we'll say it, okay?
Okay.
1, 2, 3,
6 and a
4.
half.
Oh,
Okay, okay. So you said 4. So would you like to, just, like, as a roundup of all the reasons going into that 4?
it just doesn't deliver. It does too much. I don't feel it's fully faithful to Joker, and
You
now that
would
you
try
showed
to
me
you
all
are an apologist.
now that you show me these covers, like, I'm really mad at that first cover that was so good,
Mm,
but that's not what it was. But 6.5,
I
okay.
gave it a 6 and a half. I think a lot of this works only because it's, Chuck Dixon's just with the characters and the Barbara Gordon focus and everything, but I will say that a lot of it doesn't work because it's Dixon, namely that it's not the best that I've ever read. I don't think it's just not that good. I agree with you, it's just too chaotic, it's too big, I think, for a Joker storyline, but there are some great art pieces. I
Mhm.
think some of the Barbara and Dick interactions are interesting, even if they're not characterized well, and then just some of the team member like Huntress, I think was dealt with well, so there are some positives, but it's not the best,
Yeah.
story that I've ever read. So
Yeah.
6 and a half, giving it an F plus.
Okay, how about we can average it and say a tipping towards the positive side of 5.
Okay, that sounds
Yeah,
fine, yeah.
which, like, man, is upsetting. I was ready to, like,
Yeah,
be blown away, and there just felt like there were so many moments when they could have dove so deep into so many discussions of so many things, and they don't, and they just cut it short for plot.
yeah,
Or to bring in another 15 characters.
yeah. It was interesting. I mean, I guess it's schizophrenic almost in a way of like just trying to figure out what was his mission. You know, he's got this one thing going with Harley. He's got these minions doing one thing. Now he's in the cathedral and this is his ultimate thing. Yeah. So it's just narrowing down maybe. Maybe 6 issues was too much. Maybe it could have been done in 3 or 4
Yeah,
and then
they
really
got
narrowed down his focus, taking out the slab situation. Oh, maybe only have him stay in the slab. I think
yeah,
making it smaller would have been the way to go.
yeah,
So,
yep, I
oh
think so.
boy.
Mm.
Well, thank you for being on here for this. I apologized to him before we started recording, but I felt bad once I started reading it because I thought, "Oh man, I've just thrown all these characters at him," but you did well.
No, it was a crash course of like I had to look up what is Black Mass in particular. That I had to think like, is this a racist character or not?
Oh, interesting.
Because I had to pause when I heard his name and then I saw him, I was like, oh wow, oh,
Yeah. What'd you fall down on that?
I hadn't thought anything, and then as I told you, I read the secret files or whatever
Yeah.
after, and so I read his little blip and got to see a little more after I'd read everything, and that made me feel a little better to hear like he was humanized and like there was a backstory
Okay.
and that makes sense. But you know, having Black Mass be this overweight black man was felt simple at first,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I guess we didn't really talk about the slab scenes. Do you think that those were dealt with well, or do you think that was sort of stereotypical of prison scenes that we've seen in movies and things?
did you ever see Face Off? The
Oh,
Nick Cage,
years
Charlie
ago, I do
Sheen.
know what you're talking about, but
Yeah,
yeah.
they were in so instead of collars, they had the boots
Oh, okay.
and the magnetized boots, and whenever there was a like a potential jail outbreak, like all the boots would magnetize onto the ground, and except for this one, it was collars. Um, and so if you're gonna make like I don't know if there's a deep way to do like a prison scene with those kinds of characters unless you're just going to dive so deep into one person,
Mm,
which they just don't do. I don't know, the military and the prison, so
yeah.
much of it felt stereotyped, and that different things were a way to move the plot along so that so many people could be inserted.
Yeah.
And I got introduced to a ton of stuff, right? Like all of these people that now like, wow, there's a lot of reading that I need to do. So
I don't know
it
if you need to do it.
well, it at least piqued my interest in seeing like there was a lot happening. There is a lot to this world, always
Yeah.
more than I ever expect. But
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm reading a Batman story. A, I want it to be about Batman, and this wasn't. And B, I want it to be about Joker, and this wasn't really about Joker. And so
Yeah.
I was upset, but yet it showed me the world around those people that I don't know as well, and that was important.
Do you think this would work in 2020? Do you think that it's a timeless story and that it could be in any era?
Mm.
And part of the reason I was asking about the prison stuff, because I just
I,
wonder now
yeah,
that we're understanding, I think, a bit more about actually there's a lot of problems going on in our prison system and
right.
criminal justice system.
And
Uh,
that's what I thought about too. Yeah, the prison scenes I think would be problematic. Like, I wonder if there's conversation about Black Mass. I wonder if there's conversation about the scenes between Babs and Dick and just some of the I don't know, just some of the gender roles that they fall into in their portrayals and in their interactions, especially at the beginning. I think that there would be more commentary. I think there'd be more commentary on that now. I mean, I was disheartened to hear so Ta-Nehisi Coates, wrote Between the World and Me. And last night, they 2 nights ago, they HBO premiered a documentary version of his book, Between the World and Me. They made it into a play for the stage, and then they did in August of this year, they filmed a version of it. And it was incredible. We literally got an HBO Max free trial just to watch that.
just for that.
Yeah, literally just to watch the premiere at
Well,
eight
I thought you
o'clock.
had HBO before, because weren't you watching,
Well, we had access through a friend, but it didn't have access
ah,
to
okay.
HBO Max
Okay,
because
I see.
and that upset me. So
Okay,
we have it for 5 more days.
sure.
Anyway, I mentioned that because in that at one point, so Between the World and Me came out in 2015, and Coates, the author, says in 2020, like, man, my words would be different now. And like, if Ta-Nehisi Coates and what he wrote in 2015 is, if he's saying he would be saying something different now with what he said, when what he said in 2015 with that book was shocking and incredible, how much more with something like this I think would change. It's also interesting that it came out December, January of 2001, 2002, right? I mean, right after 9/11.
Yeah.
So like that was a different world. I think there'd be a lot for people to say about it, especially after Dark Knight trilogy and that Joker and Joaquin Phoenix Joker. Like, those have, I think, changed people's conception of what Joker should be. Joker in The Last Laugh is too silly, I think, for 2020. I think that would be my summary statement.
I would agree. And as far as I know, with what people have been doing with Joker now, he's not been in this situation
Mm,
since then. I mean, they've all been serious storylines, what I've
yeah,
read and what I know about.
that
So,
that sounds fitting.
yeah. So, okay. Well, we have reached the end. And
Okay.
you've been pretty prolific on the Instagram. I know that you have been doing some, I don't know, would you consider it social justice kind of thing, civil rights interviews and things like that? And you've also been reading lots of
Yeah.
books. Do you want to talk about what you've been doing and where people can find you and read your things and your interviews and stuff?
Sure. So for the past year and a half, I've been writing articles on the website Medium and putting them out there. And I've done one about every 2 weeks. And the first bit of those were just processing and responding to thinking about race and my history with that, and our land's history, literally the soil that we live on. And a lot of that was prompted after, because we live in Charlottesville, Virginia, our family does, and it was prompted after our involvement with the counter protests in August 12th of 2017, which were less than a mile from our house, and we were there. And so I wrote through a lot of that. And so a lot of the articles that are out there were processing that. And then more recently, it's shifted into, like you were talking about, some interviews with individuals, with some people local in Charlottesville, with Zion Bryant, Wes Bellamy, and there are some others that are about to come out soon. And I've gotten a lot more excited about and interested in, like, who are individuals out there who are doing the work, now that, like, I don't know, I have a sense of, I think, like, I feel like I have my bearings of what's happening and what this moment is. Now I'm really looking at who is it out there that's speaking of these things in ways that are provocative and helpful, and can I hear from them, and can I engage them, and can I hear from their voice, and can I put it out there? So I've really dug into some of the interviews. So a lot of those have gone out on Medium. So if you look up my name, Sam Heath, Heath, on Medium, you can find everything that's there. And then Instagram and Twitter is at Sam Allen Heath, SAMALAN HEATH. So everything's put out there too. And then there have been some recent pieces that have only come out in a couple Charlottesville magazines, that haven't come up on Medium. And that's been exciting too. So I'm starting to look for some other places of publishing other than just the stuff on Medium, and that's been an adventure.
Do you
But
think
the
it's time for
holidays
a
are coming,
book?
so
Do you think it's time for a book?
Phew, it's time for a book when I don't have 3 kids under 5 years old or under 6, and teaching and all those things.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've thought about. I love a deep dive for a very quick season into a person or a conversation. Like, my favorite thing have been these interviews of sitting with someone for 1 or 2 hours, and asking them specific things, and then going back through that transcript and finding, like, a thread of themes of what they've said. So, like, Zana Bryant. So she's a second year at UVA. She was a freshman in high school when she started a petition in Charlottesville to have the statue of Robert E. Lee removed. And she was the person who made that a public thing. And eventually it came before the city council. And Wes Bellamy, who was our vice mayor, was the person who really gave the press conference in 2016 and publicly called for it. And then all the domino effect to everything in 2017 and up to now. But Zana Bryant in high school was the person who really got a lot of that started, just by this petition that she made and this letter to the editor that she wrote. And she's now a second year at UVA. And so I interviewed her, and it took a while to kind of I don't know, track her down and see if she'd want to talk with me. But it was about an hour conversation. But just in that hour conversation came this theme that she went back to a lot, and she didn't even mean to, I don't think, of space and just how she moves in certain spaces and how she acts in certain spaces and just there was one way I put an article of like she speaks about space in the way that a dancer or an architect does. Like she just has this spatial awareness of her in a space, the work within a space, and just like in and I hadn't read that about her, yet it came out in that conversation. So it's moments like that in these interviews that have been really exciting because I don't want to just ask something that they've been asked before. So I try really hard to read as much as I can or look at as much as I can about that person to find out, okay, like what's a deep dive into something that hasn't come up. And those have been some of the great conversations. And soon, an interview I did with Don Gathers is going to come out, and he is one of the co-founders of the Charlottesville chapter of the Black Lives Matter organization here in town. And so he has a lot to say about things that have gone on. And we had a great conversation on that back porch, you know, maybe one of the last ones before it gets too cold to talk about those things. So a lot of them has shifted into interviews with individuals of voices that I've either respected or been really curious about and wanted to engage and amplify and put out there for others to see.
Do you feel like the people that you've talked to, have they had or spoken with a sense of hope? That even though we're in these bad times, do they speak of the future with positive thoughts? Or because that's one of the things that I had trouble with Coates and Between the World and Me is that it
Uh,
wasn't, very hopeful, and I sort of gravitate towards Kendi because I feel like while he recognizes there are issues, he has hope that, we can move past and we're trying to get better however hard that may be, but what with these interviews you've spoken of, what do you see?
mm. So it's interesting that Coates is openly an atheist, and he'll even say in one of his essays in We Were 8 Years in Power that he recognizes that religion offers something hopeful that he doesn't have access to because he's not religious. And he even says in the essay, like I'm his the best he can do is just scream at the waves. And what does screaming at the waves do? It doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything in the sense that it doesn't change the waves. It changes him, but it doesn't change the actual situation. And that's pretty hopeless, right? And I think that's a good critique of Coates. But it's like Coates is a diagnostician, right? Like he's one of the best voices who can diagnose what the problem is. He's not going to give a treatment plan though, because he doesn't fully have one. Kendi though does a great job actually giving a treatment plan, but Kendi also not being really religious.
Yeah, I've noticed that, yep.
Yeah, his is completely focused on policy
Mm,
excessively. And so
yep.
I think Kendi misses half the problem in that I think it's fair to say this, Kendi almost dismisses people.
Mm,
He sees racism largely as this institutional thing. Therefore, we change policy. Even if racism is individual, and of course Kendi thinks it is, he's going to bypass that individual personal aspect of it to go for the bigger thing of the policy.
yeah.
Now, the people that I've talked to, especially Don Gathers, Wes Bellamy, and Zion Bryant, all are openly religious. Specifically, they're all openly Christians. Two of the interviews ended with us praying together, which was wild. Like, so all three of them they were hopeful in different ways. Like Don Gathers was hopeful that the city of Charlottesville has potential to really confront itself for what it is and grow. Wes Bellamy just started his political action group with Mayor Candace Hollingworth, a mayor in Maryland. They started Our Black Party, literally another political party to say to particularly Black people in the Democratic Party, like you don't have to vote Democrat. Like there is another option, and they formed this party to do that. And that's what a large part of our interview was about. And so he's certainly hopeful because he's starting a group to try and do some of that work. And Ziona is hopeful in the sense like she's on the streets doing the organizing work, even though she's not entirely sure, as she said in the interview with me, she's not entirely sure that we can really change this system that's there. But she's
Mm,
still willing to try because she cares about people. But all three of those people recognize we've got to change policy and we've got to change people and we've got to have an approach that honors both of those things. And Coates and Kendi, well, Kendi airs on one side of those, kind of too heavily, and just I've pulled from Kendi so much that is helpful, but I've really gravitated towards those voices that have just become more holistic. And James Baldwin is one of those. He was huge in addressing people. Like, you sat with him and you were the only person in the world in front of him, but yet he also is giving speeches and writing and working to change policy and sitting down with Bobby Kennedy and organizing groups of people. Like, he did both of those things. So I've been drawn to people and voices who recognize that we've got to have that two-pronged approach. And I don't, by addressing people, I don't mean convincing white people to change. I'm over that at this point. I want to empathize, like, and I want to care
Sure.
for people, but like my work and my writing isn't about convincing people anymore. It's and maybe it used to be. And I don't think that's good. Part of it is, I think, like, if someone's not convinced at this point with where we are, then, like, oh my goodness, like, then I'm probably not going to be able to get you there. But I want to articulate something, or I want to bring a voice to the table of someone who is articulating something that is recognizing we've got to address both people and policy. And both of those are not often enough coming up together.
Mm. Do you get, feedback still? Because I remember you told me there were a couple articles that you got some negative feedback, but in a way, if you
Oh,
get any feedback, doesn't that mean that you're reaching people?
yeah. There's feedback often.
Okay.
There's feedback often. Yeah, both positive and negative, both in person and digital. Um,
Uh,
yes, like the article that I titled "I Killed George Floyd,"
yes!
which the one of the shortest comment that I got on it was, "Well, then you should turn yourself in." And I actually had a person at work say that to me in person as well,
Oh,
and in
interesting.
in a very cheeky way, thinking it was a unique comment, and of course it wasn't, because it also was online and an
Yeah.
easy thing to say.
What if
There
it was Leslie Miller that, the boss lady? What if she's the one who wrote that comment?
Oh, Leslie Wood is so much more substantive than that. No, there's feedback all the time, and I appreciate it, and, like, I welcome it. I'm not gonna engage all of it. I'm certainly not gonna, get into a Facebook debate with somebody. I'm not gonna AOC it and, try to whip out the one-liners on social media. Like, if you wanna engage me, I'm happy to, like, sit down with that with you, or like, do that through an email. I don't like the public spats
Sure.
on social media kind of thing. It just doesn't often go there. Like, I heard Coates say, and I respect this, and when he said this, I was like, "Yes." He said, like, his writing isn't really to convince people. He's wanting to articulate something. He's wanting to articulate what the truth as he sees it. And I thought, that's absolutely it. I don't think I always felt that. I think I was trying to convince people, and I've really shied away from that now. I've also tried to really be mindful of who my audience is and who I'm trying to speak to and speak for. And I think I can speak for, I don't know. I think I can speak for Southern people, and I can speak for white people. I can speak for males, because those are things that I know. I think I can speak to people of color, but I don't think it's my job to speak for them. I don't at all. That's part of why I want to interview and engage people of color, because I want to hear their voices and I want to get those out there more. So when Coates said that he's wanting to articulate something more so than convince people, that rang incredibly true. And when James Baldwin says, like, he's here to bear witness to something, that rings deeply true within me as a writer. And I think it's been more of why I've moved more and more towards these interviews of, there's something that's happening that in 50 years we will look back on and recognize as a moment. But yet, even in the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s, they still called it the movement. They knew that it was a movement. They knew that it was a moment. They knew that it was something. And I want to bear witness to this. And I want to talk with those who are out there doing the work and try to chronicle some of these things that are happening.
That's great. Yeah. And I will say, I'm gonna throw you under the bus here. We've got a reading challenge and you've not participated. What's going on with that? Can you explain? But I know you're reading because you post on the Instagram.
I've been reading, I just haven't put them in. Uh,
December 1st is the deadline.
Oh goodness. No, I've absolutely been reading. Yeah, I put up every book that I read on Instagram, and I've done that
Yeah.
for a lot of years. So I need to put them in.
Yeah.
I
I
need
mean,
to
right
put
now it's just Al and I working against each other.
Oh goodness. Well, there's a lot that I can put in.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for taking time out of your busy dad schedule. I know you're not working this week because you're off, but it was fun to talk about this not great storyline with
Yeah.
you. I had fun doing it.
Yeah, which and please let us credit Joker. He's so great.
Let's credit him. Okay.
Even with a bad story, look at what a
Uh-huh.
great conversation he can provoke. Well, and
Sure.
congrats to you on 11 years,
Yeah, I can't believe it.
200 episodes, all the celebrations to you.
Yeah, one of my
Well
guests
done.
actually, when I asked him if he wanted to come on, he said, 200 episodes? Is there really that much to talk about?" And I said, "Yes, sir, there really is."
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely. And
here's for 200 more? I don't know. I don't know. I hope I kind of hope not, but I guess we'll see.
yeah, okay.
So, okay, well, when I come back, I'm going to be reviewing Birds of Prey 36 through 38 with the former DC editor and creator of Birds of Prey, Jordan B. Gorfinkel, aka Gorf. But now it is Zeiss's Radio Hour featuring Long Run by Deacon, featuring Nina or Nina Nesbitt. See you guys soon.